Well, welcome everyone. You should be able to hear us. If you'll go into the chat and let us know that you can hear us, I would appreciate it. But we're so glad we've got several people that have joined us already, and we're going to give time. We've got a couple minutes before the top of the hour. So if you're able to chat and let me know that you can hear us, great. I would appreciate it and stuff. So welcome.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
We're excited about this. DelRae said, so for the folks, several people I know, one of them that's in is from Jefferson City, and we're at 18. So guess what? We're ahead of her because she says it's 1 in Minnesota today.
Exactly. It builds a lot of grit. It builds a ton of grit.
Yeah. So they're hearing us, they say, and everything else. Had several other people join us. Welcome, Gina, and welcome, Jason, Bryson. We'll get a bunch of them joining us in here. Make sure if down on the chat box, just want to let you all know, if you've got any questions, of course, DelRae is going to present to us and share some information with us. But she loves a discussion. So I'm going to put you on the spot now. If you've got some questions, please don't hesitate to put those up there whenever you get a chance, and we won't get them answered right away, but we want to be able to answer those. So as she's talking, if you get some questions, put them up there, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have a kind of a Q&A session. So make sure you know that's available to you.
Excellent.
I've got right at 2 o'clock. I'm going to give just a little bit because I can see a couple people are still coming in here, but I'm a believer in 2:01. We're going to jump in and roll because everybody's time is valuable, and we know how that is, and everybody's busy. So thanks for everyone that's joining us on the session today. I think you're going to really enjoy it. DelRae's got a wealth of knowledge she's going to share with us. Put her on the spot.
I'm excited.
Okay. Well, I look like, let's see, we've got another one coming in there. It sounds like everybody says they can hear us fine, so we're good there. So no, that's available to you, everybody. Well, let me kind of kick it off. I'm not going to give you a big formal introduction, but first off, welcome everyone. It's our first monthly expert interview. And the best part is when I called DelRae, she said yes, like right away, responded back to me on email. And I was so excited to share with you because I know a lot of people in January, we look at our health and we really decide some of those changes we want to make. You all know some of my journey. I've been able to make that journey over the last 20 some years. And I think that's the thing we have to realize. It is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight, but you can make those changes, and those small incremental changes make big differences in your life. So I'm excited to have DelRae with us today. She's a health expert, and I won't give all the credentials, but really she's been doing this for a long time and really understands the nutritional side. And that's one thing I was really wanting, because I want to learn more about nutrition, but also really about some of those changes. And she's seen it from so many different people, the lives that it impacts when you make that change. So DelRae, I'm going to turn it over to you if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. And also, here's how I feel about this conversation. I feel like the more that I learn, the less of an expert I am. And I know I'm among greatness here with high achievers, and you wouldn't be in a mastermind group if you didn't want to better your life and if you weren't somebody that really desired to make an impact beyond yourself. So I feel like I'm talking to my peers here and with all of you, which is why I would love interaction in the chat, because I've been lonely. It's been a long couple of years, and my family's gone through a lot of struggle in the past year. I'll share some of those details with you in my story, but I actually want to get to know you more as well. And I feel like even over the past couple of years doing virtual, the best presentations that I've heard are ones where I felt like I was seen and heard, not just listening to somebody speak on a topic and an expert. I just learned that the more that we were interacting, I also got to know people in the group as well. And you may, know each other, but there's some questions where you figure things out about people that you didn't know, and it actually connects you on even a deeper level. And if you get to know me well, I am a farm girl from North Dakota. So I grew up with a lot of work ethic and grit and core values and character, family. I literally was 45 miles from a town with groceries. So I always joke, like, I had to learn how to get out of North Dakota. And I knew the only way that I was going to be able to do that, because I thought very differently. I was one that was always asking questions. I just desired to explore the world, experience more of the world. world, I knew the only way that I was going to be able to get out was if I really took academics and athletics seriously, because my parents couldn't afford college or extra education. I knew that was all going to be on me. And I was the oldest of 4 kids in my family. And so I felt like I needed to set the tone and role model. And I really put a lot of pressure on myself as a high achiever to succeed and to do well in my parents' eyes, and all these things that probably a lot of us, have done as high achievers. And it wasn't until about 7 years ago, when I hit a really tough transition in my life, that I started to unravel a lot of the limiting beliefs about who I actually thought I was. And that identity of who I was, she was just really empty on the inside. Like, she was craving success because there were so many empty voids. There were ways that I needed to validate my worth. I needed to validate through approval and achievement. And there was a reason why I felt empty and why I felt like I was chasing success. And even if I get to a destination, it was never going to be enough, until I really looked in the mirror and thought, well, who do you want to be in this story? And even though there's been all of these challenges, and I'll share many of them with you, and a lot of people are like, how are you that vulnerable with people? Because that's super scary to share all of your embarrassing failures and what you actually thought about yourself. But here's what I've realized in today's world, and how fast paced everything is, and what we've all experienced in hardship and overwhelm the past couple of years. What I know remains true, and obviously we've all have experienced divide in these unexpected events that have really continually shaped our lives. And unfortunately, as we've seen, more divide and separation and polarization than we've ever had before. So what does that have to do with nutrition and well-being and starting off our year together? I believe it has to do with seeing each other in each other's stories, because I truly believe that empathy and compassion and a level of understanding is what's needed to continue to navigate the world. And what's never going to change with business and personal development is relationships. It doesn't matter what kind of exciting new ventures are out there that sound like they're going to be the next best thing, or like the quickest thing or the fastest thing. I've realized in every business model that I've been in, it all comes down to relationships. And it had to start with the relationship I had with myself. Because even if I reached a level of success with 6 figures with other businesses, there was just still something missing. And it wasn't until I did deep work on myself and the beliefs that I had about myself that I started to understand I could actually choose who I wanted to be in my story. I could choose who I wanted to be through adversity and unexpected events, overwhelm, stress. I could take a step back and observe and say, I know who I want to be 5 years from now. So what kind of action and behavior do I need to align with every single day consistently in order for me to become her? And that's really the difference that I saw in my life 7 years ago, when I looked in the mirror and I was in a very tough relationship. I had a business that was failing, that I put a lot of money, time, and sweat equity into. And I had a lot of unhealthy relationships, because when I was 21, I got pregnant with my older daughter. And growing up in a really small town, you just don't do that. It's not accepted. I was then seen as really a mistake and a failure. And I realized a lot of the limiting beliefs that I had developed about myself that were literally embedded in my neurology, they became true for me. And so all the decisions I made and who I chose to align with was because I simply didn't feel like I was worthy or enough. And I carried that for the next 10 years. And it's why I was constantly on a roller coaster trying to figure out what would make me happy. And I think all of us can agree on here, and like type in the chat, do you want to be a fulfilled and happy person? It's like what we chase more than anything in our lifetime is happiness. And I had to understand that throughout studying human behavior, leading a large organization, and where I'm at in my business now, contributing and serving the world, I realized that that is really the foundation of what most of us want. We want meaning in our lives. We want meaningful relationships. We want to be happy and fulfilled, but why aren't we the majority of the time? And especially in the US. I'm curious from all of you, if you could just do this for me, it's going to take you 2 seconds, but why are you here today? I am curious, like, if this conversation that we're going to have today added enough value where you were like, that was worth my time. I walked away with something that I absolutely can implement today that was transformational, not just informational, but transformational because you acted on it and you implemented it immediately. What do you think that would be from this conversation? Is it your nutrition? Is it your mindset? Is it your habits? Is it, and I heard you all reading Atomic Habits. James Clear is like one of my, I have like a huge heart for James Clear, and Adam Grant, who is an organizational psychologist. You know, he's the one that's really helping people understand why people are leaving their work right now in droves, as we know. You know, the Great Resignation has been for many reasons. Yes, childcare was a huge part of it. But one of the biggest parts is actually us taking a step back and saying, what do we want from our work-life experience? Yes, many of us want balance. We want abundance. We want to be able to make our work an extension of who we are. We want to be able to align with not only our own businesses, but other brands that are conscious about the story they want to create and the impact that they want to create and the problems that they want to solve. I see healthy habits, I see habits, setting habits, and not trying to do everything, but focus on what is most important in this chapter of my life. So maybe prioritizing, how to make decisions on how to prioritizing. That is excellent. I love all of those because that was me too. You know, I realized at a really young age that our habits become who we are. And I also realized that I started to cope in really unhealthy ways with unhealthy habits when I wasn't able to emotionally process. And that's why I'm very passionate about mental health and emotional well-being, because I truly believe a lot of our habits, from nutrition to health to movement and exercise, they all stem from a lot of belief systems and how we've been shaped in our environment, a lot of times something about things that we don't even consciously know about. And so I was the first one in my family to go to a professional counselor. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I have a lot of stats and like habits that I'm going to help you with today. But it wasn't until I started to become more self-aware and observe who I believed I was before I could actually create transformation in my life. And transformation is much different than a New Year's resolution. Transformation is, it's an impact in our world, because when you transform yourself, there's a ripple effect of change and influence that happens that you probably tangibly can't even imagine. And that's what I've realized, is that's what I live for now. So becoming more emotionally intelligent took a lot, and it took a lot of hard work. And that's why changing our habits isn't easy. I mean, what do you think is the biggest challenge to changing our habits? What do you think? What are some of the biggest challenges? To invest more time and make health and exercise a priority. Perfect. And thank you for your chat answers. So mostly around habits here, healthy habits. So what do you think? Why do you think behavior change is so hard? I mean, because when we want avoidance, okay, avoidance, why do we avoid? I mean, why do we avoid? Because it's actually painful to take ownership, self-responsibility. I remember that, radical responsibility. Fear is failure. What else? Fear of failure. Absolutely. How many times have you self-sabotaged? Has anybody else self-sabotaged? Right? You get to a certain level of success, whether it could be physical, emotional, financial, relational, and it doesn't feel comfortable to be your new identity, does it? Because what is familiar is comfortable. So I want you to write something down for me. I want you to write down behavior change, because we're going to try and address why transformation is actually hard first. We need to know why it doesn't work before, but with what you're doing and why it doesn't work, to actually address what is going to for you, because it's not the same for everybody. It's why cookie cutter programs don't work. We're all individuals. We all have experiences, emotions, and stories that have literally shaped our perspective of what we believe is possible for transformation in our life, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, relationally. We all have had those experiences. So it's not going to be the same for everyone. Okay, let's write down behavior change. And then mindset change. This is what I hear from people all the time. So how am I going to transform? Well, I need to change my behavior. I need to change what I'm doing, which is what you all said, right? Habits. We want to focus on our habits. But a lot of people are saying, well, if I don't have the right mindset, I'm not going to behave in a certain way. I'm not going to take action, or my actions will be different. So a lot of people will say mindset. And how many of us believe mindset is very important? Absolutely. Hugely important. But I'm going to have you cross both of those out. And here is why. Because if it were that easy for us to change our habits, and it only had to do with our behavior or our mindset, many of us are probably really positive thinkers here, right? Or we're probably very resilient. We've overcome challenges. And maybe even think about that. Like, what's something you're actually really proud of the past couple of years? I mean, put it in the chat. What is one thing you're really proud of? And where did your mindset serve you well? For me, I'm really proud of homeschooling for a period of time because I am not a teacher. Thank goodness for teachers, because I struggled. I mean, just one thing that you're actually proud of that you follow through with. I'm really proud of my grit and just resilience and my ability to navigate and adapt quickly. I think those are really incredible tools and resources that I have packed in my toolbox to bring them out during times like this, where it's so uncertain. And I can say, I have these tools, I've developed them before, I can apply them to this new situation, building new teams and moving forward. Awesome, Jason. Thank you. Okay. So I want you to write down what I truly believe, and now what I've studied from so many incredible mentors. And I'm a total geek. Once you get to know me, I am a total geek for science. Empathy, understanding, resourceful. Oh, those are absolutely incredible, Nicole, qualities and character traits to have during this time, because they'll flock to you like a magnet if you have empathy and understanding right now. And if you're resourceful, any business is going to want to hire you right now. So one thing you're proud of, and here's what I want you to write down: nervous system change. If we don't change our nervous system remembers. It's what keeps tallies on our previous experiences. It's what holds trauma, and trauma can be big, medium, small, medium, big. All of our trauma can accumulate with time. If not processed and reframed, it can stick with us, and that starts to affect how we make choices and why. When is the last time, and I'm curious for you, that you have emotionally reacted and afterwards been like, where did that come from? Like, that is not me. That's not who I want to be. Where did that come from? Or maybe you've reacted in a certain stressful situation recently, and you're just like, ooh, I don't even know how that happened. So I'm going to give you an example. So 7 years ago, when this happened to me, it was who I was when I was stressed with my girls. There were kind of two people and two identities. The one would want to hide, like in a turtle shell. I call myself this, like, that's sometimes avoidance. I think maybe Nicole said that, where it's just like, I want to go in my shell. I want to hide. That's the only way that I could avoid those emotions and them kind of bubbling up to the top. And the other person was like reactive. And it's not who I wanted to be with my girls, especially. I didn't want to be the parent that was taking my stress out on them. And so when I saw these reactions, I started to deep dive into why that was happening. And most importantly, say, well, who do I want to be? Not when things are yay, exciting and amazing, and the day is going great, which we all wish was the last 2 years, but who do I want to be? Most importantly, when I'm triggered, most importantly, when I want to self-sabotage, most importantly, when your 8-year-old, or if you have one, or a teenager, like they want to trigger you. It's like this little pitch and catch game of how far they can push you until you do break. And so I said, well, I know who I want to be, but I need to understand why I'm making these choices in the first place. If I'm behaving this way, what is the belief system behind it? Okay, if it's avoidance, how do I actually lean into those uncomfortable conversations and actually say, honey, I am feeling so overwhelmed right now. Work is super stressful. Mom feels like she's going to lose it because I'm not great at homeschooling. but I'm hoping that you can kind of work with me during this time, maybe even teach me a few things. So this is how I responded to homeschooling, which was a huge overwhelm for me, trying to run, a 7-figure business, doing contribution and service work with nonprofit work, but then facing this huge challenge. I thought to myself, wow, if I wouldn't have done that work on understanding who I wanted to be and who I was, it would have completely crumbled, because I would have reverted back to what my nervous system knew about who I was. If you've ever been in unhealthy relationships, again, what is familiar is comfortable. That's why transformation is hard. Your nervous system remembers, and it will go back to default mode. And most importantly, the belief systems you've developed even before you were 7 years old. So your subconscious nervous system is developed before age 7. So most of what we believe about the world and relationships and money and our physical body, we literally heard and adopted subconsciously. It's like an autopilot program. And maybe you are as geeky about this as me, and maybe this is the first time you've heard it. But if you've ever tried behavior change, mindset change, and you're still stuck in the same place, physically, emotionally, or financially, I completely understand where you're at. Because you know why? I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a doctorate, personal development books, seminars, and anything that you could possibly imagine that I could get my hands onto to learn about how to develop my mindset, how to be a scholarship athlete like I was. I mean, if it was in a book, I was going to read it, I was going to apply it. But why was I still falling short in personal relationships? Why did I still feel like empty a lot of times and in here? And I will tell you, that's sometimes called the dark night of the soul. It's like this awakening. And sometimes it happens at midlife, which is what we call a midlife crisis. We kind of wake up to, whoa, okay, half of my life is over. These things aren't really where I want them to be. I have this much left. And that doesn't seem like a lot. And our brain, the reason why we kind of have this little freak out moment, if you've had it or you've been around people that have had it. And, I'll share with you a pretty big experience in the past few years that really changes you. If you've ever, faced either end of life, or you've had to with other people, or you start to understand your own, things shift, right? They change. You just can't unsee or unlearn anymore what you know is true. And that is, time goes faster, doesn't it? Put in the chat when you get older, time goes faster. And I'm curious if you know why that is. Does anybody know why that is? Gary, does time go faster the older you get?
Oh, definitely.
Our perception of it, right? Why is that? Well, when we're children, it's not even getting busier. When we're children, we're learning so much, and our brain is taking in so much information that literally time feels slower. Do you remember going to your first day of school? It lasted forever. It felt like a year in today's time. And as our brain changes, and literally as we age, research shows that our perception of time speeds up. Now, why do I mention that? It's because if you've been waiting to address some of these challenges in your life, or what you feel is really holding you back from an exceptionally fulfilling life or success, and however you define it, because I know everybody defines success differently. I did 10 years ago than how I do now. You don't have as much time as you think. And that's why I act with a lot of urgency. If I'm passionate about something, or I feel I have purpose and meaning in something that I desire to do, I know I don't have time to waste. I know that if an idea comes, I must implement it right away, and then navigate and start to adapt and more quickly adapt and navigate. And that is, I believe, why a lot of us are feeling so stuck and uncertain. Is there's a lot of times we wait to kind of be anointed with opportunity. And there's a lot of times where we're stuck in perfectionism. And perfectionism is actually a very low self-worth value. It's extremely low self-worth. And the reason why is because it's very self-focused. And so if we're self-focused, we're worried that what we're going to try that's new or what we're going to do is going to be either judged by other people. It's not going to work out to our level of expectation. And that's a lot of times when people start changing their physical well-being, and we're going to dive into nutrition here in a second. But I think setting this foundation of understanding that your nervous system keeps score, that sometimes your behavior isn't even consciously you, it's subconsciously you, and that you need to observe and take yourself out of your own even body and start to observe where those behaviors are showing up, and then reverse engineer why. I've gone back to even childhood. And again, this is 10 years of working with, mental health professionals, to my counselor, to deep diving into the neuroscience of transformation. And this is where a lot of people are transforming their lives, and how I did. It is in your nervous system. So for example, if you want to change your nutrition and you have failed miserably over and over and over again to stick to something, or you believe that you're not consistent, you believe you try something and don't usually follow through. There's all these beliefs that you have about yourself, but you're like, this time is totally different, right? How many times have we said that? Or this year is completely different. In fact, did any of you choose a word for 2022? I chose the word upgrade. And the reason why is because I know at every level, there's another devil. Like there is, at every level I've grown, there was something that came into my life. I'm going to show you and actually share that part of my story, so you know that I'm not this like person that was just gifted opportunity or that just got lucky in certain, areas of my life. It has been such a hard but worth it journey. And I felt like upgrade was perfect, because how often do you think we need to upgrade our own software? Like we upgrade it on all of our technology all the time, or you click do it later. Like a lot of people do. I'll do that tomorrow, tonight, sometime later in the future. But our neurology needs an upgrade if we actually want real lasting change and transformation. So let's dive into what you all want, the habit changes, and whether that's around nutrition, personal well-being, holistic well-being. I don't even like weight loss because it never works. People find it again if they don't start to transform their neurology around it and their nervous system. I like weight well-being, right? I mean, that I don't even own a scale. That's personal preference because I grew up with a mom that did every day. So in my nervous system, all I saw that equaled the emotion behind a scale was going to be the look on her face if the number was what it was supposed to be or what it wasn't supposed to be. And then what behavior followed that was either a restriction of food or a punishment of some kind. And so my view of weight was very skewed from a young age, but it didn't come from me. It was an adopted belief system. And still I started to identify that's not my story. That's not my story anymore. My story is my girls are going to see a mom that moves for mental health and emotional well-being. They're going to see a mom that chops up the fruits and vegetables on Sunday, so we're prepped and ready to grab and go whatever we need. They're going to see a mom in the kitchen with them, singing and dancing, preparing food, and having this relationship with food that was different than what I experienced before. It was the fast-paced farm life. So it was like, sit down, literally shovel food in as fast as possible so dad could get out to the field and we could clean up. Like that, we didn't have that like gratitude and intention around how we nourished our body. It was like organized chaos almost. And so I had to start to identify where is your emotional home right now when it comes to how you nourish and fuel your body, how you look at your physical body. Is your emotional home, I don't trust you because, for meaning your own physical body, because you've let me down somehow? Is it that I've mistreated you and I've abused you? I mean, I'm just going to bring to the table that I believe some of the most brave people in our world right now are the ones that are open about addiction and mental health challenges and all of these ways that we've chosen to avoid emotional pain and cope with it. because that's a part of all of our stories. I chose to avoid pain and the emotion of being judged as an unwed mother at 21 by overworking and overachieving. It could have easily been drugs. It could have easily been alcohol. It could have easily been any other choice that is not as accepted by society as work and overachieving. But that was having very similar effects on my body. It was driving cortisol. It was wreaking havoc on my gut health. I'm now diagnosed celiac and feel a lot of the stress that I held in my body for so long caused physical results and challenges from it. So that has to be addressed too. And if any of you are struggling with that, I will be the first one to accept you, unconditionally love you, and say, I'm here to connect you with anybody you need, tools, resources, and just actually say, you know what, this is a problem for me. I've known it for a while, but I've never had somebody give me permission to say, you know what, it's okay to be who I am. It's okay that I coped this way, but I do want to be better. And I believe that's why I've been able to help so many people, especially during this pandemic, is because I understand. Like, I may not understand what you're choosing, but I understand what it's like to try and hide. And I understand what it's like to try and suppress it all. And I understand what it's like to not love myself and to feel like a mistake. And to have people look at you and like say that you're a mistake is really, really hard, you know, for decisions that you made. And so that level of shame and that level of guilt and embarrassment, or those feelings, it will never serve you in the world if we can't literally bring, I call, you know, vulnerability. It's almost like a dinner table. It's like you sit down with some people and you talk about the weather, or we talk about things that are like so surface, but we actually never get to the deep and meaningful things that actually transform people's lives. So I always say at my dinner table, every emotion is welcome. And I say that to my girls, every emotion, the hard ones, the embarrassing ones, the ones that we want to shove down. And I don't believe it's ironic that when people want to change their nutrition, they're going to bring these surface level emotions to the table. I want to eat healthier. I want to lose weight. I want to be in better shape. I want to role model, you know, for my family. We have these kind of surface habits that we want to change, but deep down, why do we actually want them in the first place? Why do you want a better physical body? Is it so that you can, I don't know, take a picture as an influencer of abs on the beach? Like, no, that's not going to help anyone. Why do you? And I would love to hear this in the chat, because when I started to reframe and reshape what transformation actually meant to me, why was it emotional? So your self-esteem, Rebecca, that is like amazing. That is such a beautiful answer. And now I want to go one more layer deep. Why do you want your self-esteem to improve? And anybody else that wants to type in the chat. For self-love. If I can love myself more, I can love others even more. It's beautiful. Exactly. Yep. We're going to get into habits for nutrition. But first, if we're going to actually change our nervous system, and our nervous system has memory, and our nervous system is attached to emotion. Hating yourself is why you punish others. Absolutely. So if that's true, if our nervous system remembers, and the way that our nervous system remembers is through emotion, and we have hated ourselves for as long as we can remember, that's our current emotional home about our physical body, about our nutrition, and about our overall well-being. So how well do you think behavior modification and mindset changes are going to work on an individual that still believes that they hate themselves or other choices they made, or there's shame or embarrassment or all these underlying emotions that actually are driving the everyday choices that we make? If we don't address those with more self-love, self-worth, and identify that and build upon that with our habits, it's never going to work. We're going to end up on the same roller coaster ride. We're going to fail in all of these ways, and we're going to beat ourselves up even more. And then it's a vicious cycle that I was on all of it, financially, especially. rock bottom, embarrassment, shame, so unhealthy financially. You know why? Because I watched my dad walk up from the mailbox every day and come in, and the entire energy of our house would change. It literally was a feeling of never enough. It was stress. It was overwhelm. One storm could wipe out my family's entire crops and income for the year. And that's all I ever knew about money, that there was never enough. We lived in a double wide trailer. I'm going to show you a picture of it just to show you. I mean, the last kid to shower had a cold trickle of water. What do you think is your emotional home in all of these areas that you're struggling with? And if it is nutrition in your body, deep down, where did you learn it? How can you address that? And now how can you say, this is what I want to feel in my body? Here's the ticket to transformation in really any area of your life. It is how you feel. Everything that you want really comes down to how you want to feel. Am I right? You don't want more money. You want it to make you feel a certain way. You want to have more choice and more freedom, and you want to have more experiences that make you feel good with people that you love on your time. Of course, we all want that. Choice and freedom is so important to us as an individual. How about your physical body? Why? Why do you want to be strong and fit and make those healthy choices every single day? Again, is it about actually physically how you look, or is it that you want to feel a certain way in that body? You want to feel more energy. You want to feel more mental clarity. You want to feel confident. You want higher self-esteem. How about the experiences you want to have in that physical body? What do you want to do with that new identity and physical body? For me, I will tell you the thing I value the most is hiking, because I get to the top of that mountain and I say, thank God you took care of this vessel. Thank you for nourishing and fueling it so well. You got to see the top of this mountain. It's so beautiful. I get to take in every single moment of it. My beautiful mom was here for a week, and something that really inspires me about her is that my grandma, her mom, was really unhealthy. She had type 2 diabetes. She was overweight. She wasn't a happy person. In fact, she called me a nag because I had so much energy, and I was constantly asking, like, what can we do next? What can we do next? And my mom said that there was a moment that she chose to want to be a healthy grandma. And it was when her mom said that she couldn't go on a hiking trip with us. And it was like a short hike, but it was, a little bit out of town from where she was. And she just said, I don't have the energy. I can't do it. And my mom said in that moment, we all were like super sad as kids. And she said, I saw my future and I saw that I wanted to be the yes grandma. I wanted to run around with my grandkids. Literally my daughter and all of my nieces and nephews follow her around like little ducklings. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. In fact, my mom and my daughter, 8-year-old, they got matching Fitbits for Christmas, and they FaceTime each other every day to see who has more steps. And that in itself is what you can understand is like a transformation, right? Because she said, I want to be this identity now. And I don't want the number on the scale or my mom's health story to be mine. I want my own story. And that's who she became. So I need to know who or what is most meaningful to you that would emotionally move you beyond those times that you go back to self-sabotaging behaviors or the times where you make the unhealthy decisions. What is enough leverage for you to say, this is who I desire to be? So tell me in the chat, if you were like your ideal physical body and you made all these healthy decisions that I'm going to talk to you about every single day, what would that take? Like, what's the reward that you're seeking? For me, I will tell you, and I have a picture for you. My biggest aha moment was when I did a natural disaster relief trip. It was in the Midwest when the Midwest had flooding. In fact, I was partly in Missouri for part of it. And I went to serve with a team of people, and I was the last one standing every day. Like, I was the last one with the wheelbarrow. Even the guys are like, we can't do anymore. And I thought I could do this all day because I'm fit and I took care of myself and I'm mentally just here to serve this person where we're redoing their house and rebuilding their home. So you want to feel joy, Rebecca. Like that's literally what you need to embody now. Strength, Regina. So every time you face your old identity and she is like, okay, Rebecca, now we need to identify, when does it happen? When do you self-sabotage? Is it when you're in overwhelming stress? For me, it was late night snacking because I was a really young mom. And so here's my story with late night snacking that I figured out once I started to reverse engineer where this behavior was coming from. It wasn't that I really wanted a lot of sugar at night or that I needed something. It was that as a young mom at 21, all my friends were out partying in graduate school and I was home alone with a 3-month-old studying. And I was lonely and I was sad and I was trying to cope with that. And so popcorn became my best friend and other things became my best friend. And I thought, whoa, that habit has been there for a really long time. And here is why. I want you to draw a triangle for me. And this is called the Exposure Triad. So at the top of the triangle, you can write stress. On the left-hand side, I want you to write nutritional deficiencies. And then on the right-hand corner at the bottom, I want you to write cellular toxicity. And we're going to deep dive into each one of these because you can have the best mindset and you can have the best intentions, but because of certain circumstances in our world right now, along with our food, it has changed our health in a big way. And listen, like all of us know fast food, processed food, unhealthy food isn't good for us. We know that, right? But what are some of the reasons why we still consume it? I mean, if you really want to change some of these habits, what would you say makes changing our nutrition the most complex? Because wouldn't you agree that that nutrition is such a foundation to our overall well-being? Would you all agree with me? And what makes changing that, since it is such a foundation, so hard and so complex? So Nicole says convenience. As a mom of 2, I completely agree with that. It's so overwhelming, right? If you want to change your nutrition and you have to learn, macros and calorie counting and, keto and like every other program that's out there, it's just so incredibly challenging. Lack of planning, absolutely. And that once again comes down to convenience because planning takes time. What do we not have a lot of? Time. And so nutrition and changing it has to be simple. There has to be ease. There has to be convenience. There has to be a way to create, and I know you all read Atomic Habits, an environment that has positive cues, right? Setting up our environment for success. Because if we all want to change, yet we still have friggin' Oreo cookies in the cupboard, like we got to change our environment. Our cues are so huge. If we have it sitting there right in front of us, or we've driven by like the same fast food restaurant and it's just there and we haven't created an environment to make it different, we're always going to make that same choice. And so it's not only saying, why am I? Because I'm addressing the limiting beliefs or the belief systems around the choice, but now I'm in the habit. Now I'm setting up the environment for success. And setting up your environment for success is so important because that makes it easy. It makes it easier to implement the healthy habits. So let's talk about the first one on the left, nutritional deficiency. What does that mean? In 1950s, we could actually eat a bowl of spinach and get the micronutrients that now are needed in 54 bowls of spinach. Here's the farm girl talking to you, and probably many of you know this. Soil turnover, or our topsoil that we have been using for hundreds of years now in agriculture, is deficient of a lot of the micronutrients that our body needs in order to function properly. Where are those found? Yes, they're found in whole foods, organic fruits and vegetables. Incredible foods are packed full of micronutrients, but how many would you actually need to eat in a day to get what we need now in today's world? That's where technology comes in. That's where we've evolved the way that we can actually consume micronutrients at a cellular level. And it's what literally lit my body up with energy and mental clarity like I've never had before, is because I wasn't even getting the nutrients that I needed. And a lot of times the vitamins that we're taking are not ideal. I was in that world. I was extremely disappointed with the lack of regulation and actually potency of a lot of the nutrition or the nutraceuticals or supplements that are actually on the market. They don't usually have what's on the label in the bottle. And so most importantly, yes, whole food nutrition is exceptionally important, but technology has actually allowed us to get more micronutrients with convenience and ease. Because I don't know about you, but I would way rather drink my greens that have organic fruits or organic vegetables than eat like literally bags and bags and bags full of greens. And I love salads. I have one every single night. But we're talking how to create simplicity and ease and convenience and getting what your body actually needs for micronutrients. So we have ways to help with that. And how about cellular toxicity? This is one of my favorite topics. This is what I used to speak on all over the country. Did you know we have 80,000 chemicals in our environment and less than 1% have ever been tested for safety? And a lot of the laws have not even changed since the 1970s. And I'm not talking exposure, externally and just outdoor environment. I used to think, oh, I grew up on a farm. I was like not in a city, so I wasn't exposed to smokestacks or car exhaust or anything like that. I thought I was like good until I learned about how much exposure there is in rural communities from pesticides, until I started to learn about that our indoor environment is 10 times more toxic than our outdoor environment. Like what we use on our body daily, what we cook with, what we clean with, our personal care products, household cleaners. It's just unbelievable how it continues to accumulate. In fact, now we're at like 99.9% of us, including in the middle of the Arctic Ocean. We can test Eskimos' blood now, and we know that nearly 100% of us have byproducts of plastics, many that we know disrupt hormones and our endocrine system and are cancer causing. So this is a massive problem. It's not just a little problem, it's a massive problem. And not just for cancer and a lot of exposure related diseases, autoimmune, all-time high, not only for adults, but children. And we have a huge, huge problem with weight loss resistance and weight gain. A lot of this can be tied to the level of toxicity that we have, and that toxins are actually stored in our fat cells. And it's smart. Our body's super smart. It doesn't want them destroying, all of our organ systems, so it will house toxins in fat. And it's why many people that have tried dieting or exercising and counting calories are still not able to be at their peak ideal strength and weight, because they are still have a high body burden of toxins. And so addressing that is not like the latest colon cleanse on the shelf. Addressing that is actually pairing intermittent fasting with an incredible nutritional cleanse solution that allows your body to naturally upregulate detoxification in your body. We'll dive into a little bit of the science of intermittent fasting very quickly, but if any of you do want a deep dive into systems, like literally we have to go back to systems. If you're in a business and your business doesn't run on systems, there's a problem. It's the same thing with your habits. If your habits don't have systems behind them and your environment is not set up for that system, failure is almost inevitable, because we always go back to the easiest path that's most comfortable and familiar. So if we can create this ease and convenience, we can now change our habits for the long term. And it's not that there's any product out there or coach that's a miracle. It is the fact that we're addressing the reasons why people are stuck and why you continue to have these challenges in either weight or energy or just health. So the top of the triad is stress. And the reason why this one is also really important to address is because stress, specifically cortisol, is something that hasn't really been addressed until recently. I mean, if you think about, meditation and self-awareness and mindset and all of these things that we're actually bringing finally to the world and talking more about mental health. I mean, we're not just talking about this personally, but now workplaces are understanding that, oh, we actually have humans in our business. Weird, right? And that like their emotions matter. That is all like this stress triad is finally being addressed for how impactful it is in our health. And what I have found so incredibly helpful among all of those things that I participate in is adaptogenic herbs. And if you have not tried adaptogens before, they are literally, I believe, one of the biggest blessings I've ever had in my life. They literally help to calm your body's cortisol stress response. So it doesn't make stress go away. There's plenty of it to go around. But what it does is it allows your stress to come down to a level of homeostasis so you're better able to cope with it. And if you have cortisol that's lowered in your body, that's the hormone that literally stores fat in your body, but specifically visceral fat, the dangerous fat that surrounds our organ systems. So when we are able to address that, people are then able to make bigger choices. Would you say that sometimes your self-sabotaging behaviors happen when you're either at your highest peak level for stress, don't get enough sleep, and things just kind of keep piling on, right? Jason's like, yeah, absolutely. That was me too. I thought I could just handle a whole lot more until my body started breaking down 7 years ago. And your gut tells you a lot. Our gut is now considered our second brain. There's more research going into how our gut is literally tied to everything in our body. And the microbiome in our gut is literally as unique to you as your own fingerprint. It's exceptional. It is unbelievable. It is like the most amazing work. Our human body is so resilient. It is so amazing. If you treat it right and nourish it and fuel it and love it, what do you think the output from this body is going to be? It is such a game changer to address some of those. And with gut health, I mean, having a whole protocol around gut health completely changed my life. Intermittent fasting was one of the best things that I did, and supported intermittent fasting, not just water, because that is really, really challenging to do. And a lot of times doesn't give us the micronutrients that we need through fasting. So supported intermittent fasting is actually proven scientifically to even be better for us because our body is supported throughout the fasting process. But this is the first time in human history where we've had just access to so much food and so much processed food. And I mean, how do you really feel when you're eating? I mean, let's be honest, if you eat crap, how do you usually feel? Right? And then it's really hard to break that cycle because crap food was made addictive for a reason. They want you to eat more of it. And so when we're on that cycle, being able to literally jumpstart your results, intermittent fasting helps you do that because it gives your gut a break. Our gut is literally tied to hormones in our brain like serotonin. That's our happy, feel-good hormone. And it makes us feel better. It gives us a sense of mental clarity almost immediately within 24 hours. It is just exceptional how you can feel better by giving your gut a break. Your gut is tied to your immune system. So these little tiny projections in your gut called microvilli, and they allow nutrients to be absorbed. So if you have inflammation at this level, and you're not absorbing nutrients because these little guys are just struggling to absorb those nutrients from your food, you can eat a perfectly organic diet, you can exercise, you can meditate, do all these things, but you're not actually absorbing the nutrients that you need. And the system that I've used that has literally transformed my own well-being and physical body with nutrition, it affected me mentally because it started to heal my gut, and in a way that I wasn't having to down 30 supplements from a natural practitioner like I did to try and help my celiacs. It was literally a consistent way for me to help heal my gut and to see. I mean, I literally told my mom this when I got on the phone with her after my first intermittent fast. I was like, I think trees are greener than I've ever seen them before. Like, was it, if you've ever lived in brain fog or you've just been overwhelmed and just like exhausted, I know exactly what that feels like. And I felt like the fog was just lifted. Now, we also need an ability to fuel and nourish our body consistently throughout the day. That doesn't have to do with calorie counting, but has to do with what's actually going to boost your metabolism long-term and give you the strength that you need. And those habits of protein pacing daily is so essential because protein is what fuels our lean muscle. We lose lean muscle as we age. Our metabolism decreases as we age. We lose the ability to produce natural collagen in our body and all of these changes. So how do we combat that? We're able to actually nourish our body with high quality proteins consistently throughout the day, while then providing our body with micronutrients that it needs, complex macronutrients like healthy fats, healthy carbs. And yes, I eat carbs like my brain needs them to think. Any diet that kind of completely takes away an entire macronutrient from your diet is usually not healthy long-term, right? And we're talking about long-term healthy habits here. So protein pacing is scientifically backed, but how do you do that in a way that doesn't like break the bank? Because if you're going to get a high quality protein, it should be grass fed, organic, right? We know that protein sources are full of hormones and antibiotics and all these other things that animals consume that we then consume. Now, plant-based nutrition is also huge now because it's a way for us to eat more plants, be environmentally friendly, also enjoy, our meats when we want to, but it allows us to be able to also get good sources of protein in a really healthy way. So, we have protein meal replacements that are exceptional, all sourced from whole foods. We have the ability to nourish your body post-workout, which is literally 20 minutes post-workout is your entire results from your workout. It's like 70% of it. So most people, like me, I used to go home and shower and do all these things and like not get to my nutrition until later. That protein shake right after is so important. And then snacks that include, protein throughout the day. And that's why I've been able to be successful is in 7 years of really using high quality premium nutrition that just makes healthy habits easier, is huge. So lastly, I want to show you a few pictures if you're open to that. And here's why, is because I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words, but we've all talked about why we want to implement these healthy habits. And if any of you, I'd be more than happy, Gary, if you want to set anything up where I go over nutrition systems, like what is in every single, solution offered to really jumpstart, like a 30-day jumpstart for the new year, I'd be happy to do that. What I wanted to do on this call is to really offer as much value to you as I possibly could. Things that you can take away. First action step, I want you to write down what you feel are your top 3 limiting beliefs for the main area of focus that you want to transform in your life right now. I gave you a couple of examples. So mine was, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not consistent, right? So if those were my top 3, what is the reverse of that? I am worthy, I am enough. And it sounds so basic, but I will tell you, if you tell yourself that every day, the results are going to be completely different in your life. Then I want you to not only write the reverse of that, I want you to feel the emotion that you desire for the results that you're seeking. So for example, if your desire is to have more self-esteem, I think it was Rebecca that said that, then I want you to write down in which situations would you see in the future you would absolutely love to have more self-esteem. So I've worked with a lot of women. Sometimes it's family pictures. I don't even want to be in family pictures because I don't feel confident. I want you to envision and embody the emotion of standing in front of the camera with you and your family with confidence and worth and self-esteem in the identity and embodiment of who you desire to be. And that's how you can start changing your habits. Ask yourself this question every time a challenge comes your way, or you kind of feel yourself being pulled back to some of those old behaviors. Who do I desire to be in my story right now? And that will help you reframe what that habit is about. Because if you really have an emotional connection to who you desire to be and why, it will change instantly, and you drop down into that emotion as soon as you're faced with one of those challenges. So let's finish with this. This is my beautiful family. Okay, so after so many years of unhealthy relationships, I met my amazing partner. He is literally the most compassionate, empathetic. He's an entrepreneur. He's so smart and intelligent. He's an observer. He was a Marine. He served our country. He has a CEO woman boss, which I love. He's the owner of the company, but he hired a CEO as a woman CEO, which I love. He's so empowering for women. And he's exceptional to my girls and to me. And he accepts me in who I am. He sees me for who I am. And we actually recently got engaged. So that was in St. Martin, not that long ago. It was New Year's Eve. And I wasn't expecting it. I had no idea. We had both been through a lot personally, and we just were in a really great partnership. So when he looked at me, we were watching the sunset, and he said, "Thank you for who you are." Like, that changed everything for me. because I didn't like who I was 7 years ago. And it's like what I went to work to do was to become the best version of myself, so I could be the best version of myself for my girls, for my family, for him. And he's really changed my life because I felt like he was the mirror reflection of who I've always desired to be. And I'm just so grateful for him. And his boys are exceptional. And my two girls are amazing. The greatest gift that I've ever been given is a letter that my older daughter wrote to me for Mother's Day. I would read it, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to hold it together. And she said the same words, about who I've become. And my little one is like my little spice. In fact, every day I'm going to give you 5 habits for peak performance. So don't leave yet. I have 5 habits for peak performance, but every day we start our morning, and this is her gratitude journal. So she says something that she's grateful for, and she says 3 I am statements, and we choose core values for the day that we want to live out. So hers yesterday was, I am kind, I am witty, I am warm, and I choose my 3. And then at the end of the day, we talk about how we lived out those values. So I say, tell me how you influenced somebody with your kindness today. Tell me how you were witty today, in what situation. Tell me how you were warm to someone today. And that has really impacted our life, especially through a very uncertain and overwhelming time. This is a quote that I'm obsessed with because it allows us to have grace in our process of our life and say it's okay to feel like embarrassed about different decisions we've made. But I think owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing we will ever do. There's the double wide trailer. And there's McKenna when she was just a year old. And, I wish I could go back to me in that picture and say, you don't have to feel like a mistake. Just because you were labeled that way doesn't mean that you have to believe that. I want to share a couple of things with you, and here's why. I said that who you are in your habits is not most important when everything's great. It's going to be the most important when things are hard. And when things happen that you aren't prepared for. So previous to this natural disaster relief trip, I invested $70,000 into what I thought was a cattle fund to save small family farmers. The person that approached me was a friend and introduced me to a gentleman that said that he was going to help save small family farmers. Well, clearly that hit my heart in a huge way, and I wanted to be able to help. And 1 month later, I found out that it was a Ponzi scheme and all that money was gone. And it was the down payment on a home for my girls and I that I had saved for my whole life. And I felt so shameful and so embarrassed. And I just wanted to crawl in a hole and hide and give up on trusting people again for the rest of my life. And I just realized that sometimes bad things happen to good people. And I also realized that if I could give myself perspective, I could get through it. So going on this relief trip and serving people that had completely lost their home. And the reason why it resonated was because I thought I had lost a home for us, when in fact, I knew I could rebuild that. And there's a lot of people that can't. And I knew that that gratitude perspective was going to change my own perspective about what happened to me, and instead allow me to respond by serving someone else. After that, I found out the next year that my partner was diagnosed with cancer. And if you've ever gone through that level of fear and uncertainty, it will literally just change who you are. And both of my grandparents passed away after that. And I thought to myself, why is this happening to me? I'm a good person. I want to do good for others. And having to have those end of life conversations with him, it allowed me to say, thank God I worked so hard, because I had the time, flexibility, and freedom to be with him. Every treatment, I got to be there to support him. I got to be on the family farm with both of my grandparents. And it just allowed me to say, keep going. So I took my little one on another relief trip, and we helped clear out houses. We met families. We rebuilt. Look at her with her little boots on and her gloves. And so I helped her to understand that there's going to be bad things that happen in life, but we don't have to label them bad. There's going to be things that happen to us that we think are things we can't get through, but they are actually what shape us. And we get to choose how we respond to them. So I decided that I wanted to become a go-giver the rest of my life. I wanted to give and serve to others. I wanted to make more money and be the best version of myself so I could continue to give back in huge ways. So I was able to donate to the nonprofit that I'm now on the board of. And right before COVID hit, I think many of you probably remember Puerto Rico having the earthquake. And I went there and actually felt the aftershocks with the moms. Like literally people were on sidewalks, and it was literally one of the most life-changing experiences because right around the corner was COVID. And having a partner that was severely immune compromised, we had to quarantine for pretty much the last 2 years. And a lot of my business is in person. And I'm an extrovert, as you can tell. I really like people. And I had to face that fact. I was really struggling mentally because I was like, what am I going to do? I can't see people. I can't even go to the workouts that I love because it's like my own mental health that I need. So I said, I'm going to work on a project that's going to give back so that I can process my own pain. And so I created this children's coloring book that won an International Stevie Award, Leaders Impact Award. It was distributed in all 50 states and 7 countries. And I was able to fund it and print it. And my point in sharing this with you is that you can always choose who you want to be in your story. And the next project that was just actually completed in October was this baby doll of diversity, because obviously I'm in Minneapolis and everything that's happened, with the polarization of people not accepting each other simply because of the color of their skin. I had to do something to show little girls that they're beautiful no matter what, and to help other adults understand that empathy and acceptance and understanding other stories, it starts as children, and we have to help them accept each other. So I was able to create 2,000 baby girl dolls that help girls with self-esteem. And then we made friend bracelets for them. Lower right-hand corner, my little girl Gianna wrote to this little girl and signed a little kindness note. So I wanted to share a little bit about my life and story with you there, and just empower all of you to go out and have the best 2022 ever.
DelRae, we can't thank you enough for the information you shared. And really, I love how you set it up with really the transformation. Now, you talked about 5 habits, though, I wrote down about peak performance.
Yes.
So will you share that?
Yes. So number 1, making your bed. 2, drink 16 ounces of water in the morning, first thing. 3 is your gratitude journal. If any of you want more information, Gary will give you my email. I'll email you the core values list that I used for my daughter and I. 4th is prayer or meditation. And then the 5th is movement, and it can be anything. So it doesn't have to be your workout. Sometimes if I'm doing a later workout, I'll just do like jumping jacks to get my state up, and then say affirmations when you're in that state. So state change is all about emotion. It's dropping into gratitude and dropping into, I say dropping into because it means heart. A lot of times we're in our head, but if we can drop into our heart, that is such an exceptional way to instantly change your emotions. I teach my daughter that emotions in your body are only there for 90 seconds. We think they're there longer, but if we can recognize them, name them, and process them, they can leave as fast as they came. So
great. Share with me again, making your bed, 16 ounces of water first thing in the morning. What was number 3?
Gratitude journal.
Gratitude journal.
And you're choosing your core values for the day.
Yep. And your prayer and meditation and movement.
Yep.
Excellent. Is there any questions? I know we went a little bit long.
I know, I'm sorry. It got long.
Ray's got a lot of great information to share. One thing I'll share with you is a link that if you want to learn a little more about the nutritional systems and stuff, we have that available. Be glad to bring DelRae on to really understand, because there's systems that you can create. The one thing they've done is they made the easy. We talk about convenience. And that's one thing I like about the product that I use and DelRae is associated with, is they've made it simple.
Absolutely.
It's not more complex. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, please put them in the box there.
Yeah, sorry if I went over, you guys. I just got really excited about sharing with you.
But we just want to thank DelRae, and please put up some notes there of appreciation. I know everybody stayed on, so they were intrigued, because if they weren't intrigued, they would have jumped off there on that side of it, getting some nice comments there. You were so great. So DelRae, we just can't thank you enough for saying yes and being our first ever expert interview to be able to share with our audience. And I just thank you so much for giving of your time.
Absolutely. You're welcome. If any of you need anything, I'm here to serve you in any way.
And reach out if you have any questions. I'll be glad to share that information with you. Do you get the boys to answer your questions and writing their thoughts down also?
Yeah, their dad is pretty grateful that I'm a pretty good communicator and I just, ask questions, and they've actually done volunteer work with me as well. I think that was probably the best approach, was to take them around to different volunteer experiences, because it helped them also reshape their own thoughts and challenges. So I believe emotional intelligence is all about how we respond, right? Like our emotions are always going to be there, but we're not taught how to cope with them in a healthy way or how to reframe them. So even with their dad's health and the uncertainty around all of that, I tried to be like that support that shows them that when we serve others, it literally changes our brain. I could talk for days about that. Serving others actually brings you into the frontal lobe of your brain and out of the amygdala, which is the stress, and like reptilian brain. That's like our self that we really don't want to tap into when we're stressed. So do you have a good way to find local volunteering opportunities? Yeah, that's a really good question. So you can actually, if you call like your local, Salvation Army and different things like that, you'll be able to find so many opportunities to volunteer. There's also a really great website. I'll send it to you, Gary, and you can send it out. That's like a national platform that has really great volunteer opportunities, listed in your community. Natural disaster relief is my jam. So if you ever want to create a team to do natural disaster relief, it's life-changing, literally life-changing. So if all of you are interested in that, I would so do a trip with you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll kind of wrap up. I appreciate DelRae's time and some great information there and story, and really talking about really the challenges, because it's really about creating a transformation. And I loved how you really shared the triangle, the stress, nutritional deficiency, and that cellular toxicity, the challenge that we all have. So
absolutely.
Well, thanks everyone for coming and joining us today for the expert interview. I look forward. We plan on having these every month, so I'll keep you informed of our next session. And I look forward to seeing you next time with our next person. DelRae, thank you again.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day.
Make it a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.